Hey, welcome back to Who's Up, where we get into sports, personal health and wellness, personal finances. We cover some current events. Today we got Justin, Dr. J, Danny Ocean, and myself, TJ. Dr. J, what do you have for us today?
We'll talk a little bit about some heart health and some heart issues and things like that that might be beneficial for us going forward. Football season coming around, people get worked up, get stressed out. Wintertime starts coming up, people start doing yard work or shoveling snow. That can be a little challenge. So just a few other things to think about, just to get a little idea. The heart itself and the blood vessels and all that included, they're basically supposed to be able to increase their workload. The heart rate go up and the vessels should be able to expand to be able to get more blood depending on what's going on, right? So say if we start to exercise, we should be able to stretch out those blood vessels, heart rate go a little faster to get the blood all the way around to the muscles and joints, right? So what we have to worry about though, not worry about, what we have to make sure we don't do is disturb that process, right? So if we think about a good plumbing system, we don't want the pipes to be clogged up. We don't want the pipes to be restricted. In the case of a garden hose, we want to remain the flexibility that we want to have. So that's the kind of stuff we can do for ourselves, right? So exercise is one of the bigger things, right? We get the heart rate moving. That's kind of like if you go out to the hose or to the plumbing system and you turn the faucet on all the way up on high, flush everything out, right? So that's one thing we can do. Then you don't want on the inside to be clogged up, right? So what we have to watch out for is what we eat. Say cholesterol is one thing that can clog it up, increase blood sugar, that type of stuff. So our body's going to make cholesterol anyway. We just don't want to give it too much of a boost with what we eat, right? So as long as we put a little filter on that, keep it in order, we'll be okay. One other thing to think about is the concept of smoking. That can put a little increased inflammation into the lung and into the blood vessels themselves. Depending on what the substance is that you may be smoking, there's a lot of different drugs it could be. You might get a different response. So without going on that tangent, we just don't want to overstrain the heart with those sources, right? And then one last one, I guess not one last one, but other one I'll talk about before we get to some questions, the concept of stress. That's basically going to be kind of ramping the heart rate up, but without the physical response to give it off, right? So you wouldn't want to just rev the car up in park, burn the engine out. You want to kind of eventually drive, that type of concept. So with that being said, I guess I'll open the questions up to you guys. What other risk factors you guys might want to talk about, or tips, or what kind of things you guys want to discuss?
Well, I got one thing. I always wonder why, like, kind of like being from Richmond is like it snow at least once or twice a year. And a lot of older folks like end up having like heart attacks from shoveling snow and stuff like that. I know I like going outside and shoveling snow. I think it's therapeutic, but I never felt like weak or having any problems from it. So I was like, why is like when you get older, it's so dangerous to like shovel snow?
I got you. Well, say, I guess it all depends on if that person is used to being active and in good condition, right? So, if you take somebody that they haven't ran 5-10 miles ever in their life, basically a sedentary person, and then you make them have to go run 10 miles to get home in one piece, it might be too much of a shock to the body. So if you take that as an older person, same kind of concept, it might be what pushed them over the threshold, right? Because basically when you have a heart attack, it can be triggered in different ways. But in that case, basically the demand that the heart has to put out, they can't keep up with it, right? Or if it's any, say little small blockages in the vessels that feed the heart, right? Because so say the heart's going to send blood to the body so it can do its job and live and function. But the heart itself got to have blood supply. So when you see people that have coronary artery disease, or they get the cardiac bypass surgeries and that type of stuff, that's trying to make sure the blood can get to the heart itself. So it can be heart tissue dying and that kind of stuff. When they get chest pain, they start dying, right? So main thing with shoveling the snow, if you take care of your body and stay in good condition, it might not be as hard on you. A lot of times when people get a little older, they lose the muscle mass to be strong, right? So another way to help take the strain off the heart is making your muscles and joints real strong and efficient. So now say that same shovel and that same weight of snow on it is not the strain on the body. Heart won't even have to work harder because the body itself already prepared. I mean, And what about you? You got any? Oh, you got some more questions?
No, I was just saying, I was saying my dad ended up went out. He brought a snowblower. He said, forget all that shoveling. But I went out and brought a new shovel. I like it.
Well, like I say, if you're using it for a workout, that's one thing, and even if you are going to shovel the snow, you got to listen to your body, especially if you're not a person that's been working out a whole lot. If you start to get a little tired, take that break before you get across that threshold. That's one thing we were talking about in class the other day with cardiac rehab. You're going to teach the patient how to do their daily activities before they get really, really tired. We were talking about people that have congestive heart failure. They may be on like 2 or 3 liters of extra oxygen with the nose, with the tubes in the nose and that kind of stuff. To them, just going to the bathroom may be just as hard as shoveling snow or playing football. So we got to tell them, hey, take your rest break before you wipe out. That way you can get back to your chair before you get tired and fall. So main thing, you just want to really kind of get your conditioning good up front, but doing it as an exercise, you can be a little more controlled, you know what I mean? And it was me like you got a question over there. What you got going on your mind?
I actually do in regards to stress and heart health. What are some tips you have to like alleviate stress for those for people who are, under the gun right now?
Right. So 2 things I would recommend for sure. One would be the exercise, and where we actually process the chemicals of the stress, right? So say your brain's going to release neurotransmitters out that's going to tell your heart rate to go up to be prepared for the stress, right? The fight or flight response. Say it's a bear, right? You got to deal with this bear fighting, or I got to get away from him. So your body will perceive that as your supervisor being on your nerves at work or taxes or whatever that's going on in life, right? So if we don't ever burn these chemicals off, though, our heart can kind of stay ramped up. We just always on. So exercise will have to actually process that stuff off, right? Then another thing that helps out a lot of people is deep breathing, right? We control our breath rate. One thing about breathing, it's got a lot of different benefits to it, but it helps tap into turning on the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite of the fight or flight. This is let's rest and let's recover. So say you see the cheetahs on the animal kingdom, right? They ramp up, they run, they chase, and they make the kill, right? Then they're sitting there, they're panting and recovering, right? That's all the parasympathetic nervous system. So if we're always stressed out at work and with life, whatever the case may be, and that never turns on, we can burn ourselves out. So breathing in and out really help control that. And then it actually helps with being alkaline. People talk about keeping your body alkaline. If your blood itself becomes too acidic with basically carbon dioxide building up, it converts to carbonic acid, for lack of a better term. We don't get too detailed, but basically you start breathing out heavy to get that out of you, right? But that can also bring up increased heart rate and all that type of stuff. So if you kind of control the breath, you can calm that down. Now you can control the mind, right? And then you can put your brain somewhere that's not stressful. All this stuff starts to calm down. And you can tap into it as you need to. Say life is fairly calm, but sitting in traffic ramps you up a little bit, or going across a bridge or something. You can tap into it real quick. Maybe it's the field goal kicker. Monday Night Football, prime time. You miss it, you're mean. Just control his breath. Because say if I'm breathing all heavy, I might have bad mechanics. So, breathing, that's a very big one. I think it helps with stress for you.
I got one.
But you got one, Justin? What you got going on?
Why is heart disease, high blood pressure, and all those things associated with the African American population? Because I feel like that's just like a common thing in our culture for our people to have like kind of heart disease, high blood pressure, and kind of a lot of other things associated with, with the heart. Why is that common?
It's a lot of different layers to it, a lot of different factors, but one of them would be, I guess, the lifestyle, right? That's, I guess, to kind of blanket it all together. Certain flavors and certain foods, they taste good and everybody pass them down, and that's what we celebrate. And that would be all right if that wasn't the majority of the diet selection. Right? Let that be the treat instead of default setting, would be all right. Stress. Now we can get into a lot of stuff we want to, right? We can go down the road of racism. We can go down the road of chasing the American dream. We can go down the road of needing money in your pocket, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of these things, everybody facing them, but we just don't talk about it that way. You know, you take a hectic lifestyle. I'm going in and out the drive-through. I'm sitting in traffic. I'm ripping and running. You know, even if you're eating really healthy, that stuff don't digest that good. You know, so I think. And then another thing about it, you know, it's a lack of education about it, I guess. You know, if you don't know, you don't know. You know what I mean? If you watch grandma them eat X, Y, and Z, and you didn't know that's what was really making them sick, you wouldn't know. So, but I think being exposed to other cultures has helped out a lot. Like, say, just looking at what Jamaicans eat compared to what traditional Southern Black food might be. Same chicken, right?
Yeah.
One heavy fried, maybe buttermilk fried with the buttermilk biscuit, right? Compared to plantains and jerk chicken, right?
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, say they got the steamed cabbage instead of cabbage with the fat back in it and butter, you know, so it does a few little subtleties like that, you know what I mean? Some of it could be, like I said, outright racism and, you know, just chasing the wrong lifestyles. I mean, like some of the food recommendations that you see in healthcare, they may not fit the individual, right? I mean, I just call a spade a spade. I listen to some people that they got German background or English background, certain cheeses and milks don't bother them at all. And then other people that's not from those parts of the world, cheese and milk hit them in the stomach every time, you know? Or so, you know, you just got to kind of think about what works for the individual too, you know? But the last one I think would be, and it definitely ties into, you know, some of the racism and poverty in the world is access to stuff. You know, if we take Flint, Michigan, it's hard to have water if it's all poison. And not to get too far off your topic, but I wanted to mention it, having proper water content is important for your heart function too, right? Because water is going to make up the blood plasma, that's the blood volume, right? So if your blood volume drops low, your heart rate has to come up to offset that lack of blood to make sure everything circulates around. So especially like summertime, you don't want to get dehydrated. This is also why I think, and especially in our community, we need to learn more education, because when you go to the doctor's office, they're going to give you the pill, right? Because even if you do take the long-term lifestyle changes, they're going to give you this pill to keep you alive quickly. And the pill comes with usually a diuretic that's going to make you more dehydrated. So we kind of get stuck in these cycles, and then we fight with our kidneys, because the kidney going to be playing a factor in this too. So, you know, just really knowing that if I live a certain way and eat a certain way, I ain't got food with these pills, then I can take more problems off my list. But if you just see grandma say, well, I'm 70 and I'm supposed to be taking blood pressure, you think it's the norm, you know what I mean? So I think if we just get some more education, a lot of that stuff will change on it, man. Maybe it's up to us, but we doing it now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. TJ, you got questions for me? Like you got another one in your brain.
Nah, man. I think that kind of answered everything for me. Just, you know, continue to work out, hopefully keep their heart healthy and functional.
Yeah. So say we talked about working out, right? So there's certain types of workouts that's going to be good to do. We don't want to just be doing stuff all willy-nilly. So say if we're trying to lose weight or we just starting out, you might want to do something that's a lower intensity over a longer duration, right? That way we don't have the wrong side of physics hitting on the body too hard, right? Say you're a person that never worked out and you're on the run side. You don't want to go try to run a whole lot. Your joints can't handle it no more than somebody that's on the bigger side is trying to run too much. We don't want to put too much strain too soon. So if you are going to do something of a higher intensity, shorten down the duration. Go and hit it quick, get a good challenge, then get that strain of physics off of you. What you don't want to do is something that most people always do, is go jogging. Now I got a long duration, but a higher demand. So basically, if I had a shock and a strut in the car, I'm just banging on it. Now my knees hurt and I don't want to work out. See what I'm saying? So that's one thing you can try to do. Lifting weights is good, right? Because that's going to make our body more efficient. Well, our heart rate will go up and down doing all this stuff too. And then on the diet side of it, like I said, just adjusting the recipes, man. If you take chicken as the default source, instead of always being the fried with buttermilk, let it be curry sometimes. Now we're getting the turmeric to reduce inflammation. Let it be jerk sometimes. The pepper is good for inflammation. Make sure we're chasing it with cabbages and greens and other things that got fiber. The fiber is going to clean out the blood system, clean out the the arteries from excess cholesterol, that type of stuff. We mentioned water. So if you kind of put a good piece of the puzzle and mix it all up, now the treat for that Thanksgiving heavy macaroni and cheese and the yam and the hog, all that stuff come through, and we hit it one time good, and we say, I celebrate, and then we go on about our business. No different if it was alcohol, right? We get drunk a weekend or two, everything all right. A whole alcoholic, eyes might turn yellow. Now I'm looking like Bart Simpson homies, and now I got jaundice of the liver, and we checking out, right? So we get in the middle, get us a good little reasonable range of what tastes good and what's not too unhealthy. We're gonna be all right, folks, because black don't crack unless you own it. There it is. Look.
Oh, that's a great one. But I got one more thing.
Yeah.
Justin, I know you were in the Spartan race, right?
Mhm.
How was that type of race? Was that like taxing on like your your breathing and your heart rate and stuff like that? Or is there like a way to train for those type of events?
I'm gonna say number one, I didn't train. I just went. And so, boy, oh boy, is my body hurting today. Every time Dr. J mentioned a joint hurt over here. So, but I would say it's more so, I would say CrossFit, like you and I were talking about yesterday. I would say CrossFit would be the perfect way to train because, as Dr. J says, like you don't want to just shock the body, right? So with CrossFit, you have periods where it's like high intensity and then your heart rate drops, which, I guess to kind of give you like that little bit of rest period, and then it's high intensity. So with the Spartan race is like you're jogging, and then it's jump a 6-foot wall. And then so your heart rate jumps up, and then it's jogging, and then it's like bear crawl, your heart rate's up again. And so it's just like little things that allow you to kind of go like this, and then a little spike, and then you get to go like that. So I feel like CrossFit would probably be the perfect way to train, because if you just practice jogging for this, you would probably be okay. But then the high endurance, high stress activities, you probably wouldn't be able to do well because you didn't build up a stamina or you didn't build up the work to be able to do those things. So again, I can't tell you 100% how to train for it because I didn't, but I was just saying, like, if I would have, I would have taken that approach after doing it. So, but I guess Dr. J, you could probably elaborate more on how a person who is training for a Spartan race would want to train.
Like you kind of want to take like I said, LeBron approach a little bit. You want to be kind of good at a little bit of everything. You're gonna need that good endurance foundation, like you were saying, but you can get that through the interval training, right? With the high intensities, but you're gonna need some weightlifting too, be able to pull your body up down the walls and to handle those bear crawls. So if you take your weightlifting days, that'd be 3 days of the week or 4 at the most, something like that. And you had other days we doing like some cardio. That way you can kind of build the best of both worlds, right? And you still gotta give yourself some days we get mostly rest, but even on the rest days, you don't want to be completely inactive. You want the blood kind of circulate around. So those could be your days where you're working on some flexibility, or you're running errands, something like that. And then even with that, if you're looking at a big time, say these Spartan races be something you want to do on a regular basis, you like them, train for them like LeBron over the whole season. No one coming up some months in advance. Now you can kind of make a little periodized training scale where you work on kind of lightly full body, pick up your intensity, max it out, and then have like some active rest and kind of prepare for the competition. That's what they do with major athletics. They'll go off-season work, preseason work, during the season work, and then like post-season championship time. That way you kind of peak, and then you get a chance to rest. That way you can kind of keep getting better and keep better without breaking your body down too much. Because the idea is, even when you're on that rest period, when we come back to the new point, we might have took a little step down, but we're not back at the bottom. So it's kind of like that, riding the escalator. Go down, you just get better and better and better, man. So
I got one more.
What you got?
I got one more question for you. When you were talking earlier, you said jogging is not necessarily good. Is it because it's constant impact on your joints, or would you say almost like doing like interval training as far as sprint a lap, jog a lap, sprint? You know what I mean? I just wanted a little more clarification.
like say you might come out better with a sprint and a walk than a straight up jog, right? Say like run fast, walk. In that middle, that's kind of setting you up like for like that 4x4 race, that 400. That's like the hardest race, right? Because you got to have speed over a long period of time. So it's kind of that same concept. It's like you putting that long duration in, which is something to fight, but you got that heavier demand. So you don't want to have that going on too long. You either want like a high intensity over a short time period. That way, that's not much strain on the joints and the muscles, or you want to lower duration over a long period, because what you want to try to do is get the right energy systems to burn, but without putting too much strain on the body. So say if you want to get mostly fat to burn, you want to do it over a longer duration, but you need a little bit of an intensity boost to get some of that cardio to burn first, some of that carbohydrate to burn first.
Mhm.
So some people, they'll go, I don't want to go too off into a tangent with keto diet, but it's the concept. They try to cut down on the carb to make themselves burn fat, but to do it efficient, you want to get enough carbohydrate in to get it to burn that way. So when we get to looking at these training mechanisms, you want to kind of tap into the right energy system. So low intensity, long duration will get you past that initial phase where you're burning mostly carbohydrates, and then get you into that long phase where you're burning fats. The high intensity stuff, we're gonna hit the carbohydrates real quick, but we're gonna burn through them. So now I gotta burn the fat. You know, you still need to use some carbohydrate. You know, you won't be able to do the higher intensity stuff quite as long, but that's just kind of how the body works, you know. But I mean, let's think about it. Professional football as an hour, but they're not playing every play. The offense on, defense on, they got halftime, they got quarter break. So it's intervals. So you got to train for that. So like say with the Spartan race, it's got intervals. So you're just going to train for that type of interval. So you might have to jog for them, but you won't want to start out with that if you haven't done it before. You know, you want to get a good foundation in place, then gradually work up. Most people try to go from couch to 5K, and then that's when they get into training injuries or they get discouraged or whatever the case may be.
Gotcha. Okay. That was all for me.
Yeah, man.
That sounds good, bro. All right, go checking on us with at IG at Who's Up _podcast. If you have any questions, want to hear any other topics, please email us at 1-800-WHO'S UP@gmail.com. Thank y'all for a great convo once again.